Good day, Professor Rizal and Dr. Idora. My name is Roshandev Daniel, and today I'm going to be doing the tutorial on the soccer game for multiplayer. So firstly, we have our Photon Bun setup right here online. So at our dashboard here, we first need to create a new app, which I've already done, collect our app ID, and add it to our Photon that we have installed the package into the game. So right now in Unity, after installing that, we have to create 3 new scenes from our previous lab and tutorial. So the new scenes will include a menu scene, a lobby scene, and a multiplayer game scene. So here in the main scene in which we had our insert username over here, we now have to change in the submission button on the on-click function. On-click function, we change it to menu instead of game as the previous tutorial. So this will lead us into the menu scene. So once that is done, we can go into the menu scene, and over here we create a panel and choose our design and add 4 different buttons: kickoff, training, ranking, and quit. So each of these buttons play an important role. For the multiplayer button, which is the kickoff, we will add an on-click function using the game manager to connect to the server, which is connect to the multiplayer scene, which will lead us to our lobby scene. For the single button, we enter the game for a single player. For the ranking button, it will take us to the leaderboard scene, and the quit button will quit the application. So in our game manager, we add 2 new scripts that we download, which is the connect server script and scene changer script. Once that is done, we can now go into our lobby scene. In our lobby scene here, in our canvas, we will create 2 different panels, which is the room setting panel for players to enter the value of the room number, and the waiting setting panel, which is once the player has entered the room, they will see the waiting setting panel over here before they can start the game, which is the name of the player 1 and player 2, depending on how many players the game has. So once that is done, we also have to add a game manager, which will have a lobby manager script and a photon view script. In the lobby manager script, we then have to add the elements into it. So the player 1 and player 2 element will be in the waiting setting over here, in which we drag in and drop it. The room name, which is in the room setting. The room setting panel, the waiting setting panel, the start button, and the number of players. So right now I've set it to 2, and the minimum can be 1, or must be 1. And then it will take us to the scene, which is the game multiplayer, on the start button. So once that is done, we can now duplicate our game scene, which we have before, and turn it into a game multiplayer scene. So over here, a number of things that we will need to add. Firstly is a scoreboard scene. So the scoreboard scene over here, in the canvas, will be added to ensure that the score is updated when a player scores a goal. We also then have to ensure that our goalposts, both of our goalposts, has had proper detection for when the ball enters the goal using a box collider. We also change the main camera to overview the whole game, as there will be 2 players playing. And for our ball, we remove any previous scripts that were available on our ball. For our player, I have already turned it into a prefab. So we need to add our player into a prefab and add 3 different scripts into it, which is the player movement multiplayer script, photon view, and photon transform view classic, in which we will have to click on these 2 functions over here. So once that is done, we can then add once that is done, we also add the get ball script for multiplayer at our leg to ensure that the player is able to get the ball and shoot the ball, both players. So once that is done, we can go back to our scene in which we have the multiplayer scene, and now in the game manager here, we will add a spawn player script, and in this spawn player script, we need to add the element over here to show that where the player position would be. So element 0 is for player 1 and element 1 is for player 2. So when they spawn, they will be able to be spawned on the scene. So that's all from me. Thank you.